What is up, duelists, and welcome to another Yu-Gi-Oh video. And today I have a little bit of an experiment for you guys. I had two very big TCG regionals this past weekend, and I decided to do something fun because I've been so focused on Master Duel all of December with the Duelist Cup and everything. Just the TCG format has been getting a little bit stale as we're all waiting for that next ban list and burst protocol to come out in time for the next YCS in February. I decided to see if the version of Draco Tail that I've been playing in Master Duel would have any chance in the TCG. I kind of wanted to set a little challenge for myself, but also just like I've been preferring it over branded in Master Duel. And in the TCG, everyone's playing branded Draco Tail. So I was trying to see what's up with that. You know, am I able to do well with my preferred version of the deck in Master Duel in a TCG tournament? Because technically the entire deck, bar Max C, is legal in the TCG. And I'm happy to report that I made top 8 at the regional in Montabaur on Saturday, which had just over 300 players. So I was pretty happy with that performance. I ended up going 6-3 at the German Open on Sunday as well, which was okay. Would have hoped to do better there, but lost the last round to K9 Vanquish Soul, which is a pretty tough matchup for the deck that doesn't exist in Master Duel. But wanted to share the deck list and the experience with you guys, so hope you enjoy the deck profile. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Without further ado, enjoy the deck list, and thank you for watching. Alright, duelists, let's take a look at the top 8 deck list from the Montabaur Regional that I played on Saturday. I made only very minor changes before the Regional on Sunday, but we'll talk about those as we go. I did, of course, play the Master Duel version of Draco Tail that I've been playing, which is starting off with 3 copies of Blazing Cartesia. I'm choosing this over the branded version of the deck for a multitude of reasons. First of all, I really like opening with this card because it doesn't lock you, so you can make seals by going into the Spirit with Eyes of Blue. And then it adds itself back into your hand in the end phase. It's a starter that can't really be negated very well. You know, it can't get ashed. If it gets impulsed, impermed, veilered, or anything like that, it sticks around on the board, and then it can still perform a fusion summon on the opponent's turn. So it's really hard for your opponent to stop you from getting into a grind game with this card. So I think it's pretty awesome at that. And in order to make it a consistent starter, because of course, comparing it to the branded fusion package, you have no bricks. Like the Albaz in the other version and the Frixel are not the greatest draws. In this one, you just have like 3 really good draws. But in order to make it a good draw, you need a higher count of Draco Tail names, which I'm a really big fan of. So the ratio I'm choosing is 3 Phymenas, 3 Lucias, 3 Mululu, which is obvious. I mean, that's what everyone's been doing. But I'm also playing 3 Urgulas and 2 Pan for a total of 14 Draco Tail names, just to make sure I can open preferably 2 Draco Tail names whenever I have a way to fuse, just so I never have to fuse with like hand traps, which sometimes you still do, but for the most part, I want to have good fusion material in my hand at all times. Specifically, Urgula is very good to have in your hand when you're playing a Draco Tail mirror match, for example, which is a little less relevant in the TCG than it is in Master Duel at the moment, which is something I found out. Like, I only played against 1 Draco Tail, I think, across both regionals, so not as popular as it is in Master Duel, but still really liked the high Draco Tail count together with the Cartesia. For non-engine, playing 3 Nibs, this card is really good in the TCG right now, because of course there's a lot of yummy stuff and also some Mitsu versions where if you pair this with other hand traps, it becomes really, really impactful. Also going first, it's the best hand trap to have behind a board. Then we're playing 3 Molcharmi Fualos and 2 Perulias. Special shout out to Young Cards for the Molcharmi sleeves from YCS Japan. I thought these were awesome. I had a lot of fun playing with these. You can get them for yourself. Link is in the description below. You can use Josh10 for 10% off. But yeah, the Charmies, of course, a very vital part of this deck in the current format. On Sunday, I actually added a 3rd Perulia in the main deck. For Saturday, it was just in my side deck. Basically, the Perulias are the replacement for Maxi in Master Duel. In my Master Duel list, it's 3 Fuva, 2 Maxi. So for the TCG, I just did Perulia instead. These were pretty solid. If you go first, as long as you can play the game, you can still fuse with them into an Arthalion, and that is typically fine. But then going second, of course, they are super important to minimize. And then we've got 3 Ash Blossoms. Not the best card for going second, but in this deck, it's really nice because you can recycle it. And since the ceiling of this deck isn't that high, since it's the pure Draco Tail version, having extra hand traps going first that basically solidify your board position is really important. And then I played 2 Bells. This card underperformed for me on Saturday, mainly because it's like not that impactful, mostly against K9 builds, which is not a thing in Master Duel. So in Master Duel, I've really been liking the Bells. in the TCG. This is the one of them was cut on Sunday for a third copy of Purulia, but that was the only change I made in the main deck for the Sunday regional. And then one copy of Magnamut, because this card is very good against Mitsu, very good against Yami, and in general just great in this deck because it searches your engine pieces, right? Either Mululu if you need a starter, or Urgula or Pan if you need a good fusion material. So Magnamut is amazing in this deck. And then the only spells and traps I'm playing in this deck, because I want to draw as many monsters as possible, I'm just playing the Draco Tail spell traps. 3 Rahu, 3 Ketu, Flame, Horn, Sting. I think 3 traps is mandatory. I side out 1 or 2 traps going second basically all the time, except in the mirror match. But I don't want to draw any spell traps outside of the Draco Tail ones, because I want to be able to fuse every time with my monsters. Like, I don't want to draw 5 mana with too many spell traps or whatever. So I'm maximizing on basically engine, hand traps, and then just playing the quote-unquote minimum for the Draco Tail spell traps. So that is the main deck. 40 cards. Like I said, only change for Sunday was removing 1 Bell and adding a third copy of Purulia from the side into the main. But other than that, it was I was very happy with it, honestly. I was pretty positively surprised by how well it held up compared to the branded version, because of course in TCG everyone's playing branded in this deck. So I was pretty happy to see that the deck is still able to perform in the way that I prefer it in Master Duel. So extra deck, we've got 3 copies of Arthalion, and that's another thing of playing Cartesia over branded fusion. We have a lot of extra deck space. So we can play a second Gulamel, which typically is a 1-of. We can play a second Secretarion, just in case it comes up in grindy mirror matches. We have room for Mysterion. We have room for other options like Philia Regis and Chaos Star Source Dragon. These 2 happen very rarely, but it's nice to have the option. This can be an out to like something like Dimensional Fissure, for example. We've got the Spirit and the Seals. This is my favorite way to establish a board with this deck. I think this is the reason why this deck's end board is strong enough, even without the branded cards, because opening Seals is great for disruption, and then also getting a Mululu or Magnamut, or Pan or Urgula if you want to fuse them away with 5 mana. But most of the time, what I like to do with this is I like to end on a 5 mana in hand, and a Seals on the board, and then Seals bounces something, tags out into Mululu, then Mululu is the one that I want to fuse into Arthalion with on the opponent's turn, and then the 5 mana can fuse into whatever I want, right? The 5 mana can go into Secretarion or Mysterion or Philia Regis or whatever, depending on the matchup and the situation. So I really like having 2 ways to fuse on the opponent's turn, so you don't have to use all of your fusion triggers in one spot, right? If you just have 5 mana, you're forced to use your Pan, Mululu, Urgula, all of the things at the same time, and that's not always what you want to do. Sometimes you want to save your Pan pop for a later time, but you really need that Arthalion bounce or whatever. So having 2 ways to fuse on the opponent's turn is nice, which is also sometimes something you can do by just keeping Cartesia on the field in different openers. Cross Sheep, this is mainly for follow-up. It doesn't come up very often, but if you have Arthalion or Gulamel in the graveyard already and you're just like stuck with, I don't know, let's say a Magnamut and a Nibiru on the board or something, you can link those off into Cross Sheep, then the Gulamel triggers in the grave, or the Arthalion summons back into the Cross Sheep zone, and then Cross Sheep can bring back Lucius, and that's how you can create follow-up even if you might not have anything in hand. So Cross Sheep is very nice for that. And then 1 SP and 1 Typhon. These come up relatively frequently whenever you're not locked by Rahu or Mululu. But yeah, it's a pretty standard extra deck for the pure version. I've been playing this exact extra deck for all of the Duelist Cup in December as well. I've been pretty happy with this extra deck. It's pretty established at this point. For the side deck, 3 copies of Lancia, because Malice is still really powerful in the TCG. We still have Red Ransom, and Malice was actually the deck I played against the most across the 2 regionals. You know, I played 18 rounds total this weekend, and 3 of them were Malice, which was the most popular deck amongst the decks that I played. So I'm happy I had Lancia in there. I was able to beat 2 of the 3 Malice I played, lost to 1 of them, but it is what it is. Also got 3 copies of Meowls and the 3rd copy of Purulia in the side deck. You know, I'm a huge Charmy enjoyer in this format. You know, I think having 9 copies of the Charmies, even though they are dead draws sometimes in the middle of the game, I think these cards are the most important piece in some of the combo matchups like Yamimitsu, Malice, and so on and so forth, just to make sure that these decks don't make their full board, because quite frankly, their full board is not beatable for pretty much any deck, but especially a deck with this ceiling of the pure Draco Tail deck. I'm just not beating any full established boards. So I think step 1 in stopping your opponent from making the full board is dropping a Charmy on them. So I've been playing 9 Charmies in my Vanquish Soul deck at YCS Bologna. I'm doing the same thing here. I just think that's like where we are in the format right now, is that there are some decks that require you to drop a Charmy on them, otherwise they will basically FTK you. So yeah. The third copy of Bell was in the side deck for me as well, because I wanted it for the mirror and maybe like pure yummy. Once again, for Sunday, I moved this Purulia to the main deck, and because I wasn't super convinced by Bell on Saturday, I took this one out as well and replaced those two with 2 copies of Fenrir in my side deck on Sunday, just so I had something to side in going first every time, especially because with the additional Purulia in the main deck, I had to have 1 extra card to take out every time when I was going first after siding. Fenrir was okay for me. Fenrir was solid on Sunday, but on Saturday I played these 2 in the side. And then I have a couple of generic cards for going first. I'm siding a Pot of Prosperity because the extra deck space is there, and people should be siding out Droll and Lockbird against my deck basically all the time, so I can just play a free consistency card basically for going first. Then I'm playing a Crossout and a Cult by the Grave, just mainly to counter stuff like Ash Blossom, but also Ghost Bell, which is the reason why I kept 1 Ghost Bell in the main deck even for Sunday, because Crossout on Bell is really crucial if you want to force through your Flame or whatever when they're trying to Bell it, because Bell is pretty popular in other decks to beat Draco Tail. But most importantly, it's like, okay, you start with Lucius, they Ash it, or Imperm or whatever. You have the Crossout for that, because I'm also siding Imperms. I can side in 1 Imperm for going first for the Crossout if I feel like it. But most importantly, Imperm is here to beat K9, because K9 is a really tough matchup for this deck, and I don't want to use Veiler or something, because that triggers Izuna and makes Ripper stronger and everything like that. If my opponent opens Noroi or summons Jokol and then makes Ripper with it, then I really want to have that Imperm available. So pretty crucial. It's not a monster, which is not ideal, but against K9 I think you really need it. It's also something I side against Yummy, because you can use it to negate Herald of the Arclight, which is really important. And then the last card might seem a little random, but is 1 copy of Dominus Impulse, because Dominus Impulse is a crazy strong hand trap against this deck. So I'm using this as a 1/4 Crossout Designator. And I think siding this together when you're going first against stuff like Malice, for example, or Mitsurugi is really nice, because Dominus Impulse is a really good card to just draw as well. It's not like it's a break in your deck that you hate drawing when you have Crossout in your deck. But if you draw this, you just set it, and it becomes a crazy endboard piece, because they also never expected in Draco Tail, which I thought is pretty neat. So basically, going first, I'm siding like the Prost, the Crossout, the Called By, the Impulse, sometimes 1 Imperm if I feel like my opponent might play it for the Crossout, and then also on Sunday I was adding the Fenrirs in there for the additional Purulia in the main to take it out, right? So that was the side deck. Pretty solid, honestly. No real complaints about it. I was pretty happy with it overall. Honestly, sometimes was better going second than going first, because it doesn't make the most unfair boards. I actually lost a couple of game 1s where I went first because I drew like Charmies, or my opponent's hand was just really good to break my board. I mean, we all know at this point that Draco Tail doesn't make an unbreakable board or anything, especially not the pure version. But that was kind of where the fun of it was for me. I never felt like I was going first and I was just auto-winning the game. Most of the time, I still had to like play it out and grind with my opponent. That was really fun. So I really enjoyed this deck. I'm happy I was able to top at least one of the 2 regionals. On Sunday, I went X3, which was okay, not the worst. I lost the last round to K9 Vanquish Soul, which is a really tough matchup that doesn't exist in Master Duel at the moment. So that was tough. But other than that, pretty happy with the weekend. It was a really fun deck. It was kind of a fun challenge, just play the Master Duel version of the deck in TCG. Had a fun time. Hope you enjoyed the deck profile. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Good starters and 1 that would be bad to draw. You have 3 really good starters.